Last year, we asked people the question,
Would you rather be stuck in a forest with a man or a bear?
Bear. Maybe a bear.
Probably a bear.
100% a bear.
Definitely a bear.
A bear.
I would say a man.
and we ignited a global conversation.
I would like to comment on this bear situation.
Everybody's been arguing over if they'd rather be left in the woods with.
A simple question became a viral debate reflecting gender dynamics, lived experiences, and an ongoing conversation around safety and trust.
If I get attacked by a bear, people would believe me.
The argument for the bear came down to predictability. A bear is a wild animal, but its behaviour follows instinct. A bear doesn't hold grudges, seek power, or act out of spite. It doesn't pretend to be friendly only to turn on you, and it isn't cruel for the sake of being cruel. Those arguing for the man contended that humans are rational beings capable of reasoning and mercy. And then you had others who seemed to miss the point entirely, debating literal survival skills or questioning which species is faster in a foot race.
All the women saying bear are just rage baiting.
If you're arguing over whether it's easier to outrun a man or bear, then you've already acknowledged that both pose a threat. And that's exactly the issue. For some, the fear of an unpredictable human threat is more real than an encounter with a wild animal. Let's see what the numbers have to say. According to the NPCC, a woman is killed by a man every 3 days in the UK. Domestic abuse accounts for 18% of all recorded crimes in England and Wales. Shockingly, 1 in 4 women have been raped or sexually abused as adults, and in 2023, over 3,000 women and children were turned away from domestic violence shelters due to the lack of space.
During my research, I managed to find a journalist called Anna Richards, and her story was pretty telling. I wanted to hear firsthand about what happened, how it happened, and what she did to deal with it.
My name is Anna Richards. I'm a travel writer living in France. I'm also a very keen hiker, and sometimes I set off for ridiculously long walks. I wrote an article following one of those hikes about the viral man versus bear video because it was very similar to a real life experience that I'd had.
Could you walk us through what happened that day, showing as much as you're comfortable with?
I was hiking a trail called the Transcaucasian Trail, and when I was almost 2 weeks into the trail, I was hiking through an area of Armenia called Violet Zor, which has the really morbid translation of Valley of Woes, and spectacular landscapes, but it's bear country, essentially. So, I was looking around for a place to camp one night, and most of the people that you come across in rural Armenia are beekeepers, and I was chatting to a beekeeper. A lot of conversation with him going arch, which means bear, and he was basically like, you can camp at my bee farm, and I've got this fenced area, that way you're not going to get bothered. So I said yes, I was like, thanks very much, that's great. And he had a lot of beekeeper friends in the area who'd been shooting pheasants or something, and they sort of fired up the barbecue. They all drank a lot of homemade vodka shots. I didn't drink very much because I was very aware that I was in a group of entirely men. Yeah. And that evening, when I rolled out my sleeping bag, it's pitch black, he climbed on top of me and tried to force himself on me. And I was very fortunate in the fact that I think it helped that he was probably quite drunk as well. But I'm quite a small person. I'm 5'2". I do a lot of sport, but I'm not particularly sort of physically strong with this stature. And I was lucky that I managed to wrestle him off me and, hit him. He gave up essentially. And I was like, what do I do? Do I try and, pack up all my gear and, walk in the dark, try and find another place to pitch? Or do I trust that, that's be enough to deter him? And yeah, I slept with, some of my penknife open under my pillow, and just left it first light.
What was your first reaction when you saw other people talking about that situation and maybe picking the man?
Well, most of them picked the bear in the video, and I was like, I can understand that. And I think that when I wrote the article, most of the comments underneath were, kind of pretty scathing, like, oh, go and wrestle a grizzly then, and stuff like that. And I think that people were really missing the point. I think the thing is not, would I rather try my chances, fighting off a man or fighting off a bear? Yeah. The point is, what would you rather come across in the wild, a bear probably from afar that's going to have predictable behavior, or a man when you're in the middle of nowhere. And I think that that video and the way that most people answered bear, it's really telling of that.
After the video went viral, we hit the streets again to see if people had heard about the question and what they had to say.
I don't think a lot of men get it, and I think that it's not about hating men, it's about the potential that they're going to hurt you. Because at least with a bear, you know it's going to hurt you if you're stuck in the woods with it. And actually, it's probably easier to avoid because there's no like level of trust that you're building there.
The worst a bear can do is kill you. Men can do worse.
One more time, sorry.
Men can do worse than kill you.
Would you rather be stuck in the forest with a man or a bear?
Probably a man.
Could you elaborate on why?
If you utilize the man together, you can create that friendship. One, there's the language barrier. Obviously, with a bear, you have a language barrier there. But also, you can utilize each other through your relationship that you have with one another. Whereas with a bear, you're not exactly going to have that. It's kind of,
You're going to get mauled.
Yeah, exactly, pretty much.
Are you in a relationship?
I am, yes.
Would you rather your girlfriend be stuck in the forest with a man or a bear?
Still with a man.
Elaborate.
Because for me, her survival will probably be the utmost important thing. With a bear, I know at the end of the day, one day or another, she's going to be eaten alive.
So, asking this question to women, they're saying the bear. Do you have any idea why they'll say the bear?
Because men are scary.
And they've also said the only thing a bear could do is kill you. Men are calculated, but would your opinion still be the same?
I think in general, you've got to see the good in people before you see the bad. So anything that you can do in terms of, naturally a bear is an animal, they don't really have, their instinct is to survive at the end of the day. Whereas a human, we have more than just the instinct of survival. I think there is that other wanting to do good and wanting to be good, where a bear doesn't have that, thought process of, oh yeah, this is the right choice, this is the wrong choice. Whereas a man, even if he does do that wrong choice, he will know it's a wrong choice. You're taught right from wrong very young, we naturally pick it up as well, and a bear doesn't have that.
I managed to get an interview with someone called Josie. He works for a women's aid company called Solace. The website had so much to say. I'd love to hear what insights she can give. Why do you believe most women in the video chose the bear over the man?
I think there's probably a range of reasons, isn't there? There's some people are responding maybe more lightheartedly, joking about it. Maybe they're sort of alluding to experiences that they've had, negative experiences that they've maybe had in dating or relationships. But I do also think it comes from a place where there are people that genuinely have real fear. 1 in 4 women will experience sexual assault or rape as an adult. So if you're looking at, if that's been your experience, that question is looked at through that lens, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you feel the man versus bear debate reflects a broader issue to women's safety?
A lot of women don't feel safe, whether that's because of really high profile cases in the media, the ongoing rape trial in France at the moment, for example, or the almost daily headlines you hear about revenge attacks on women, whether it's murders or serious assaults. So although, people are maybe joking about it or taking it lightheartedly, I think it's a really important conversation that we're having around women's safety, and it's a conversation that needs to continue to be had.
What message would you like to share with men on how they can contribute to making women and girls feel much safer?
Men can be an ally in these situations, whether it's calling out things that they're seeing on a day-to-day basis with friends or family, any comments that are made, behaviour that's made, whether it's continuing the conversation, ensuring that they're very much part of the conversation. It's not just women that are having to pick up the conversation in this space. You can look at our Good Guide for Men online, tongue twister, but that also has some really useful resources as well.
What made Man vs. Bear so effective wasn't the question itself, but what it revealed. Some people dismissed it as silly and some called the question flawed, but the reaction itself proved why it mattered. For those who have never feared another person's intentions, the choice seemed absurd. But for many women, it wasn't about logic or survival tactics, about trust, about lived experiences, about the reality of moving through the world knowing danger isn't just a possibility, but a pattern.
And that's why the conversation will never fade, because it was never really about the forest, but it was about everywhere. And that's why I'm asking you, would you rather be stuck in the forest with a man or a bear?